All right, welcome to the deep dive. This is where we really get into the source material you send us, pull out the important stuff, and hopefully leave you feeling like you've got a real handle on it.
That's the idea. We do the digging, sift through the details so you get the good stuff, the core insights.
Exactly. And today, well, you've given us a real classic. We're diving into excerpts from John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. Powerful stuff. Maybe a bit heartbreaking, too, let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely. It's a cornerstone, isn't it? Published back in 37, deep in the Depression era, it really captures a specific time and place, but the themes, well, they still hit hard today.
Totally. So we're starting right at the beginning, where Steinbeck sets the scene. A few miles south of Soledad, which kind of fittingly means loneliness, right? Down by the Salinas River.
Yeah, Soledad. Loneliness or solitude, it's no accident.
Seems pretty peaceful at first, this spot by the river. Almost like deceptively calm. That's where we first meet George and Lenny.
Steinbeck's doing a lot with that opening setting. It's not just scenery, he's building an atmosphere. And it creates this real contrast with, well, everything that comes after. The harshness of the ranch.
Okay, so our mission here is to really unpack these early parts. The setting, George and Lenny showing up, how they interact, the first hints of, the world they're stuck in and that dream they hold on to.
We want to pull out those key details, the ones that show you right away who these guys are, what challenges they're facing, and why the story unfolds the way it does.
Kind of a journey, isn't it? Starts in this fragile bit of nature, then bam, the tough reality of ranch life, and then in the end, it circles right back to that river spot. It's intense.
It really is. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. And hey, while you're settling in for this, maybe take a second to hit that like and subscribe button. Helps other people find the deep dives, and you probably don't want to miss what we tackle next.
Good call. Okay, so starting right there by the Salinas River. George and Lenny arrive, and Steinbeck's description of the place, it's incredibly vivid.
He really makes you feel it. The river's deep and green, the water's warm, and how it slipped trickling over the yellow sands in the sunlight. It sounds almost, I don't know, magical.
It does have this gentle quality, doesn't it? That warmth, the twinkling light, like a moment of grace almost, a pause before, reality crashes back in.
And you've got these big landscape features, the golden foothill slopes, the strong and rocky Gavilan Mountains. It makes their problem seem kind of small against this huge backdrop. Nature doesn't really care.
That's a good point. But then down by the river itself, it feels more enclosed. The willows fresh and green, the sycamores with those mottled white recumbent limbs, like a little hidden sanctuary.
Yeah, and he mentions the debris of the winter's flooding caught in the leaves.
Yeah.
Even here in this peaceful spot, there's like a hint of past trouble, leftover damage.
Maybe a bit of foreshadowing, that even quiet places have seen turmoil. And the detail about the leaves on the bank being so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering. That sound, that little movement, it just pulls you right in.
And the animals. Rabbits sitting there, tracks from coons, dogs, deer. It's full of life, undisturbed.
Until the sound of footsteps on crisp sycamore leaves breaks the quiet. The humans arrive and everything scatters. The peace is gone, just like that.
And here they come. George and Lenny, walking in single file, one behind the other, even out in the open. That tells you something right away, doesn't it? Leader and follower.
Definitely. And at first, they look the same: denim clothes, brass buttons, shapeless hats, those tight blanket rolls or bindles. They're just migrant workers, part of the landscape, anonymous.
But then Steinbeck zooms in, and bam, the contrast is huge. It sets up their whole dynamic instantly.
George first. He's small and quick, dark of face, with restless eyes and sharp, strong features, described very precisely. Small, strong hands, slender arms, a thin, bony nose. He seems alert, sharp, maybe a bit tense.
And then Lenny. Oh, boy. Huge, shapeless of face with large, pale eyes and wide, sloping shoulders. And how he walks heavily, dragging his feet a little the way a bear drags his paws, arms just hanging loose.
That bear comparison is so key. It's not just about his size, it's that lumbering quality. Immense strength, but maybe a lack of awareness, something untamed almost.
Yeah, like he doesn't quite fit. And it highlights their differences perfectly. George is all sharp lines and control. Lenny is just big, unfocused.
And their first interaction by the water, it basically sums up their entire relationship, doesn't it? George stops, Lenny almost plows right into him.
Right. Then Lenny just drops everything and throws himself down, snorting into the water like a horse.
And George snaps instantly. Lenny, for God's sakes, don't drink so much. It's that caregiver tone, isn't it? Constantly watching, expecting trouble. He even says, you can be sick like you was last night.
So there's a history there, a pattern. Lenny screws up, George cleans up. And George himself drinks carefully, using his hand. He's controlled. Lenny isn't.
And George is already pissed off about the journey, staring morosely, complaining about the bus driver giving them a bum steer, making them walk goddamn near 4 miles.
Too goddamn lazy to pull up at the ranch gate, he says. It shows you how they're always at the mercy of other people, these little frustrations just piling up. It's a tough life.
And George vents that frustration, partly at Lenny, even though it wasn't Lenny's fault. The external pressures immediately strain their bond.
So right there, in that first scene, Steinbeck lays it all out. The hard journey, the stark personality differences, and George's constant, weary job of looking after Lenny.
Which leads straight into their dialogue by the river, revealing even more about that dynamic. Lenny's memory issues are immediately obvious.
Yeah, he asks about the work cards. George has them both, of course. Then Lenny forgets where they're even going, asks if they're going up north, which reminds George about weed. Whatever happened there.
George's reaction is pure exasperation, calling Lenny a crazy bastard for thinking he had his own card. That resigned Jesus Christ when Lenny forgets again. You feel for George, you really do. But he reminds him, the ranch, like the one we come from up north, in Weed. That name Weed just hangs there, ominous.
And then the mouse incident. George sees Lenny hiding something. Lenny tries to lie. Ain't a thing in my pocket. He got nothing, George. Honest. It's so transparent, like a kid.
George makes him give it up, and it's a dead mouse. And Lenny's reason? I wasn't doing nothing bad with it, George, just stroking it. He just wanted to pet it with my thumb while we walked along. It's heartbreaking, really.
It shows that deep need he has for, like, tactile comfort, soft things, but also zero understanding of his own strength. Or, that petting a dead mouse is maybe a bit weird.
George throws it away instantly. Lenny begs for it back, but he obeys. Reluctantly. It sets the pattern. George commands, Lenny resists or fumbles, George insists, Lenny complies, usually unhappy about it.
It's a power dynamic, but it feels like it comes from necessity, right? Not because George wants to boss him around, but because he has to keep them both safe. The world isn't kind to someone like Lenny.
Exactly. And George immediately sets the rules for the ranch. He'll do the talking. Lenny.
You just stand there and don't say nothing. Why? Because if he finds out what a crazy bastard you are, we won't get no job. Brutal honesty.
And Lenny tries so hard he repeats it. I ain't gonna say nothing. Just gonna stand there. Like he's trying to memorize it, burn it into his brain. He wants to do right by George, even if he doesn't get the why.
But George's frustration just spills out, that raw moment where he says, God, you're a lot of trouble. And I could get along so easy and so nice if I didn't have you on my tail. He even says he could maybe have a girl.
That little fantasy of being free, unburdened, it really shows you how heavy that responsibility feels for George. It's not just the usual loneliness of a ranch hand, it's amplified.
Lenny hears it, of course. He lies quiet, then asks that awful question. George, you want I should go away and leave you alone? He suggests going off to live in a cave. Oof. That hits hard. Because despite everything, George doesn't want that. He softens up, maybe feels guilty, says he was just fooling, he wants Lenny to stay, and then the promise of puppy.
Ah, the puppy promise. That'd be better than mice, and you could pet it harder. That line, knowing what comes later, it's just chillin'.
Yeah, it really is. George is trying to redirect Lenny's impulse, but he's also acknowledging that dangerous strength. Heavy foreshadowing right there.
It tells you Lenny's physical power, combined with his lack of control, is the central ticking time bomb George is constantly trying to manage.
And Lenny, bless him, senses George softening and pushes back a tiny bit. Says he could live alone and then nobody could take his mice. It's almost like a simple manipulation, showing he gets, on some level, that George needs him to, despite the complaints.
It's this constant push and pull, isn't it? Frustration, affection, dependency, managing Lenny's limits. It's messy, unequal, but undeniably strong.
And what holds it all together, what makes it bearable?
The dream.
The dream.
Yeah.
The little place. That's the core of it all, isn't it? The thing they always come back to. Their hope.
It really is. More than just a goal, it's like their anchor. Getting that little place, living on the fat of the land.
Fat of the land. I love that phrase. It sounds so rich, so abundant, like they'd finally be getting their share, living off the earth they work for other people. Self-sufficient.
And George describes it so vividly, usually because Lenny pushes him to. All kinds of vegetables in the garden.
Maybe selling some eggs or milk for a little whiskey.
Yeah.
Just a small comfort, something earned. getting the rewards themselves for a change.
And the biggest thing, they would belong there. No more drifting, no more bunkhouses, no more answering to anyone else, no more being fed by, as the text says, a Jap cook.
That line really jumps out, doesn't it? Shows the casual racism of the time. The Dream is also a refuge from that, a place where they make their own rules.
A place with a little house with a room to themselves. Privacy, dignity, things they absolutely don't have in the bunkhouse.
And a little fat iron stove for winter. Warmth, security, home, something solid.
Even the work would be different. Maybe 6-7 hours a day, not breaking their backs, bucking barley 11 hours, working their own crop. Meaningful work for themselves.
But for Lenny, it all boils down to one thing.
The rabbits.
Yeah, tending the rabbits. He's obsessed. Make sure George knows they ain't so little. Like, they'll be proper pets.
He can picture himself doing it, getting alfalfa in a sack. It's a simple job, fits his need for soft things. It's his part of the dream, the thing that makes it real for him.
And George knows this. He uses it. It's his main way of controlling Lenny, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ultimate threat is losing the rabbits.
Ties the dream directly to Lenny's behavior. Well, you ain't got no right to get in no trouble, George says. Mess up and I won't let you tend the rabbits. Hope, but with conditions.
And it sinks in. Lenny immediately repeats that instruction George gave him earlier. If trouble happens, hide in the brush by the river till I come for you.
That link is crucial. The hiding spot, the brush, becomes tied to the dream's survival in Lenny's mind. It's safety, but also a sign of potential failure.
So the dream isn't just some vague hope. It's active. It motivates them, binds them, and George uses it to manage Lenny. It's beautiful, but you can already see how fragile it is, threatened by Lenny himself and the world around them.
Which brings us right to the ranch. And those first encounters where the harsh reality really starts to bite, they show up late, which immediately puts them on the back foot.
George has to spin that story for the boss. Bus driver gave us a bum steer, had to walk 10 miles. Using the same complaint, but now it's an official excuse. Starting off with a small lie.
The boss himself, short, quick steps of a fat leg man. He's blunt. Asks about the work slips, why they're late, and immediately notices Lenny isn't talking.
George jumps right in. Defends Lenny's silence, but pushes his value. He ain't much of a talker, is he? The boss says. No, he ain't, George agrees, but he's sure a hell of a good worker, strong as a bull.
And Lenny, bless him, forgets the rule right there. Smiles and parrots, strong as a bull. George just shoots him a look. Quick flash of Lenny's impulsiveness and George's constant policing.
George quickly lists what Lenny can do. Good skinner, can wrestle grain bags, drive a cultivator, selling Lenny strength, basically, making him useful.
Then they meet Candy, the old swamper. Rubbin' white bristled cheek. Got that old dog with him, a hell of an old dog. Used to be good. You immediately get a sense of age, vulnerability, maybe being past their prime.
George is cagey at first. Thinks Candy's being nosy listening in. But Candy explains the ranch code. A guy on a ranch don't never listen, nor he don't ask no questions.
Yeah, that code of silence. Mind your own business. It's how you survive there. Asking questions is risky. Privacy is non-existent. George gets it. He's slightly mollified. He understands the need for caution.
And then Curly arrives.
Oh, Curly. Steinbeck describes him so pointedly. Young, thin, brown face, brown eyes, that head of tightly curled hair, and those details, the work glove on his left hand, which we later find out is full of Vaseline.
Yeah, creepy. And the high-heeled boots, trying to look taller.
He's instantly antagonistic, especially towards Lenny. Demands he talk. By Christ, he's got to talk when he's spoke to. Challenges George for answering for him.
And when George just says, matter-of-factly, we travel together, Curly's reaction is pure suspicion.
Oh, so it's that way. Jump straight to thinking something's wrong or weird about it.
Candy explains him perfectly later. That classic small man syndrome. Curly's like a lot of little guys. He hates big guys. He's a lot of time picking scraps with big guys. Kind of like he's mad at him because he ain't a big guy.
Spot on. His aggression is all about insecurity. Bullying is how he tries to prove himself, assert dominance over guys who are physically bigger.
And Candy points out how unfair it is. It never did seem right. If Curly wins a fight, he's tough. If he loses, the big guy gets blamed. Curly's protected because his dad's the boss. He can get away with it.
George sees the danger immediately, especially for Lenny. He predicts it. Lenny ain't handy, but this Curly punk is going to get hurt, but he knows the fallout for Lenny will be way worse. He says, Lenny ain't no fighter, but Lenny's strong and quick, and Lenny don't know no rules. That's the terrifying part, isn't it? Raw power without control or understanding of consequences.
Candy's own fear. He'd slew me. Just for talking about him. Shows how much power Curly has because of his dad. Makes him dangerous.
George drills it into Lenny later. You keep away from Curly, but then adds that instruction. If the son of a bitch socks you, let him have it. It's like George knows a fight is inevitable and is trying to give Lenny some kind of plan, even if Lenny barely gets it.
So these first meetings, they really set the stage. You see the environment, the hierarchy, the tensions, and Curly is immediately positioned as a major threat to Lenny.
And just as you're processing Curly, in walks another complication. Curly's wife.
Her entrance is staged, isn't it? Framed in the bunkhouse doorway, blocking the rectangle of sunshine, demanding attention.
And her appearance is all artificiality. Full rouged lips, wide-spaced, heavily made-up eyes, red fingernails, hair like little rolled clusters like sausages, wearing a cotton house dress but with red mules with red ostrich feathers.
She's trying way too hard and completely out of place in that rough male world. Her voice has that nasal, brittle quality. Sounds fake, maybe.
Her excuse for being there, I'm looking for Curly, becomes her mantra, just an excuse to be around the men seeking attention she clearly doesn't get elsewhere.
Lenny's reaction is simple, pure observation. She's pretty, no judgment, just sees what's there.
But George instantly sees red flags. Yeah, and she's sure hiding it, he says, calling her a bitch, a piece of jailbait. He sees trouble, danger, a trap. His warning to Lenny is sharp. You leave her be.
That phrase, jailbait, is heavy. It directly connects her to the possibility of serious trouble, legal trouble. A huge risk for guys like them.
And sure enough, Curly shows up looking for her soon after, demands to know where she went. George's reply, she said she was looking for you, is delivered cold, insulting, turning the knife a little.
Curly measures George, sizing him up. Silent threat. And after Curly leaves, George admits his fear and hatred. I'm scared I'm going to tangle with that bastard myself. I hate his guts, Jesus Christ. The tension between them is already explosive. So you've got Curly, driven by insecurity, and his wife, seen as dangerous and disruptive, both immediately stirring up trouble around George and Lenny.
And then Carlson strolls in, another ranch hand, greets them, makes a casual joke about Lenny's size. He ain't very small, ain't small at all. Seems straightforward enough.
But Carlson's arrival leads straight to talk about Slim's dog and her puppies. Carlson asks about Slim's bitch, and Slim says she slang her pups last night, gave birth. And he immediately drowned 4 of them right off, kept 5. The biggest.
Ugh. It's brutal, but presented as completely normal, pragmatic. Can't feed them all, so the surplus gets eliminated. Survival of the fittest. It introduces that theme of life being cheap, disposable. Necessary, maybe, but harsh choices.
And Lenny's reaction. Pure excitement. Wants a pup immediately. A brown and white one. Begs George to ask Slim quick, so you won't kill no more of them.
Connects right back to Lenny's need for soft things, doesn't it? Makes the puppies another potential source of trouble. Links the harsh ranch reality, drowning pups, with Lenny's own dangerous vulnerability.
Yeah. So these first encounters, they paint this really clear picture of the ranch. Hard work, unspoken rules, simmering violence, and specific threats like Curly and his wife hanging over George and Lenny's heads.
And underneath it all, there's this pervasive loneliness, which we see really powerfully through Crooks.
Cook's room. Steinbeck describes it so carefully. Attached to the barn, separate. Small light bulb. He's sitting there rubbing liniment on his spine, surrounded by books.
Remember Candy mentioned earlier the stable buck's a nigger, the boss gives him hell, but he reads a lot.
Yeah.
Sets up his isolation immediately, racial segregation, but also an intellectual life that separates him. We're just reporting the language from the text here, showing the context.
Lenny wanders in looking for his pup. And Cook's first reaction is defensive, protecting his tiny space. You ain't no Skinner. There's no call for a bucker to come into the barn at all.
It highlights that strict segregation. Cook's room is his only haven, and it's off limits. But maybe he's lonely too. Or maybe just curious about Lenny. He lets him in, tells him to sit on a nail keg.
Lenny, of course, starts talking about the dream, the rabbits. And Crooks is just pure cynicism at first. Calls Lenny nuts, crazy as a wedge. Says he gets why George keeps Lenny hidden.
Crooks has seen it all before, right? Heard these dreams from guys who drift in and out. To him, they're just fantasies. Bullshit, basically. They never happen.
But Lenny's belief is solid. But the rabbits! It ain't no lie. We're going to do it. Gonna get a little place and live on the fatherland. That simple faith seems to, I don't know, get under Crook's skin a bit.
Yeah, it cracks that cynical armor. He starts asking Lenny about George, about their relationship. Does George talk over Lenny's head? He's boring Lenny with his deep eyes.
It feels like more than just curiosity. Like he's trying to understand this connection, this bond, which is something he's completely denied.
And then Crooks opens up about his own loneliness. It's brutal. Talks about being born in California, his dad's chicken ranch, white kids playing there, but his dad didn't like it. I never knew until long later why he didn't like that, but I know now.
God, that's chilling. Learning racism as a kid without even understanding it. He points out his total isolation now. There ain't a colored man on this ranch, and there's just one family in Soledad. He's utterly alone.
And he says how it feels to be ignored. If I say something, why it's just a nigger saying it. Again, quoting the text directly, it shows how his voice, his whole identity is dismissed because of his race. He's invisible.
And this isolation, it leads him to this intense realization about just needing someone, anyone. He gets agitated, pounds his knee, says how important it is just being with another guy. It doesn't even matter if they understand. It's just the talking.
That raw need for simple presence, just not being alone in your head, it shows the psychological damage of his solitude.
But then, maybe because Lenny cracked him open a bit, Crooks does something cruel. He starts messing with Lenny's biggest fear. What if George doesn't come back? What if he gets hurt? What will Lenny do?
Lenny panics instantly. George ain't got hurt. He doesn't understand why Crooks is saying it, but the fear hits him hard. Maybe I better go see.
Crooks pulls back, says he was talking about himself, about how being alone messes with your head. A guy sits alone out here at night. You got nothing to tell him what's so and what ain't so. You can't turn to some other guy and ask him if he sees it too. You got nothing to measure by.
He remembers his brothers, always near me, always there, sleeping in the same room. Such a stark contrast to his life now.
This scene is so powerful. Crook's cynicism is stripped away. You see the raw pain. But then, tragically, he inflicts that same kind of pain on Lenny. It's fucked up.
Candy shows up then, looking for Lenny. He's hesitant to even enter Crook's room, asks, "Course, if you want me to." Crooks tries to hide his pleasure, acts gruff. "Come on in. If everybody's coming in, you might just as well."
Candy even says, "First time I ever been in his room." Shows how deep those lines are drawn on the ranch. And Candy starts talking about the dream, too, figuring out about the rabbits. Hope is spreading.
You get this fragile moment, don't you? These three outcasts, marginalized by race, age, disability, finding common ground in the dream. Huddled together, briefly, in Crooks's little room. It's almost beautiful, but you know it can't last.
Nope. Because guess who crashes the party? Curly's wife. Again. And she just shatters everything.
She looks at them amusedly, like their little gathering is just funny to her, and she gives her take on the men. Funny thing, if I catch any one man and he's alone, I get along fine with him. But just let two of the guys get together and you won't talk, just nothing but mad.
Her read on it is cynical. You're all scared of each other. That's what, every one of you is scared the rest is going to get something on you. Sees fear, not comradeship or caution.
Crooks knows she's trouble, tries to get her to leave. Maybe you better go along. We don't want no trouble.
But she digs in, gets nasty, speaks contemptuously, calls them bindle bums, says they think they're so damn good.
She vents about her own shitty life, her own dead dreams. I could have went with shows. A guy told me he could put me in pictures. Her version of the little place just is out of reach.
Her bitterness about being stuck there on a Saturday night just explodes. Standing here talking to a bunch of bindle stiffs, a nigger and a dum-dum and a lousy old sheep, and liking it because they ain't nobody else.
Jesus. That line straight from the book is just brutal, using every slur she can find. She's miserable, so she lashes out, punches down, using the language of the oppressors, because maybe she feels just as trapped.
He tries talking to Lenny about the rabbits, calls him machine, reduces him to his strength. When he says George lets him tend rabbits, she dismisses it. Well, if that's all you want, I might get a couple rabbits myself. Belittles his dream.
Then Crooks tries to stand up to her. Says, "I had enough. You got no right coming in my room." Big mistake.
Her response is pure, terrifying power play, rooted in race. You keep your place then, nigger. I could get you strung upon a tree so easy it ain't even funny.
Chilling. That direct threat of lynching, it obliterates Crooks instantly. The text says he reduced himself to nothing, lost his personality, became toneless, sat perfectly still, his eyes averted, everything that might be hurt drawn in.
Devastating. He just disappears, becomes invisible again, just like he said, erased by that threat.
Candy tries a weak defense, we'll tell, but she just scoffs at him and Lenny.
After she finally leaves, the damage is absolute. Crooks immediately backs out of the dream, tells Candy forget it. I wouldn't want to go no place like that.
Says dully. What she says is true. Her cruelty just reinforced the reality of his impression, snuffed out that little spark of hope. He's back in his box, alone.
That whole scene is just, wow. A microcosm of the ranch's cruelty, racism, sexism, ableism, all colliding, marginalized people turning on each other. And it seals the deal on Curly's wife being, well, a massive danger, whether she means to be or not.
Which leads us, horribly, inevitably, to the barn. Sunday afternoon. Sounds of horses playing cards in the background. Normalcy.
Lenny's alone. And he's done it again. The puppy. Slim's puppy. It's dead.
His first words reveal everything. Why do you gotta get killed? You ain't so little as mice. I didn't bounce you hard. Confirms exactly what we feared. He petted it too hard. Killed it.
And his immediate thought isn't about the puppy, it's about the dream. Now, maybe George ain't gonna let me Ted no rabbits if he finds out you got killed. That's his only frame of reference for consequences. The dream is everything.
He tries to hide it, cover it with hay, tells himself it ain't no bad thing, like I gotta go hide in the brush, trying to convince himself it's not that bad.
But he knows. Now I won't get to tend the rabbits. Now he won't let me. He's trapped.
He digs the poor thing up again, confused, angry now, calls it a goddamn little son of a bitch. His emotions are all tangled, love, fear, frustration at the thing that caused the trouble.
And who walks in right then? Curly's wife, looking for Curly. Again.
And she shares her own loneliness, echoing Crooks. I get lonely. I can't talk to nobody but Curly. Elsie gets mad. How'd you like not to talk to anybody?
It's a moment where you actually feel for her. She's trapped too, isolated in that marriage, just wanting connection.
Lenny, trying to follow George's rule even now, says he's not supposed to talk to her. George is scared he'll get in trouble.
She sees the dead puppy. Why, he's dead, she cries. Simple observation.
Then her bitterness flares up again. Nuts to George's fears. Complains none of them cares how I gotta live. Goes back to her could have made something of myself story.
Repeats the missed chances, the movie guy. Blames her mom. Says she married Curly on impulse after meeting him at a dance, basically because she felt trapped and maybe thought her letters were stolen. Definitely wasn't love.
And she admits it flat out. I don't like Curly. He ain't a nice fella. Stuck with a guy she hates and a life she hates.
Lenny, lost in his own trouble, brings it back to what he understands. I like to pet nice things with my fingers, soft things.
And for a second, she connects with that. Everybody likes that. I like to feel silk and velvet. She even remembers Lenny mentioning Aunt Claire giving him velvet. A tiny spark of understanding.
But that connection leads straight to disaster. Maybe craving admiration, maybe just careless. She invites him to feel her hair. Mine is soft and fine. Here, feel right here.
And Lenny does. But too hard. Same way he pet the mice, the puppy. She panics. Please don't do that. George will be mad. She struggles, starts screaming, muffled screaming, eyes wild with terror.
Lenny's reaction isn't malice, it's fear. He cries, begs her to stop so George won't be mad so he won't lose the rabbits.
But she keeps struggling, yelling. His fear turns to anger. He accuses her of getting him in trouble. Just like George says you will, he shakes her. Hard, her body flopped like a fish.
And then, silence. She's still. He broke her neck.
His first thought, even then, he ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits. The dream is gone. That's the primary catastrophe in his mind.
His actions after are almost automatic. Fear, George's instructions. Picks up the dead puppy. I'll throw him away, it's bad enough like it is. Hides it under his coat. Creeps out. Heading for the one place he knows to go. The brush by the river.
Following the emergency plan. Not because he understands murder, but because he knows he failed George, failed the dream.
And the description of her in death. The quiet barn, the dogs sniffing. Steinbeck writes, her face is very pretty and simple, sweet and young, the meanness and discontent gone.
It's strangely tender, isn't it? Like maybe in death, she's finally free from whatever made her so unhappy and, yeah, sometimes cruel in life. Makes you see her victimhood too.
Her death is the point of no return. The dream is officially dead, and the final act is set in motion.
Absolutely. The consequences hit fast and hard. Candy finds the body.
Pure horror. Runs to get George.
George sees her. That long silence. His mind races. I gotta tell the others, they've gotta lock Lenny up so he doesn't starve. Maybe they'll be nice to him. Grasping at straws, trying to process it.
But Candy cuts through that faint hope. He knows Curly. You don't know that, Curly. Curly gonna want to get him lynched. Curly'll get him killed.
Georgia knows he's right. Yeah, that's right. Curly will. And the other guys will. No mercy. No understanding for Lenny. Just vengeance.
And then Candy, his voice breaking, asks about the dream one last time.
You and me can get that little place, can't we, George? You and me can go there and live nice, can't we, George? Can't we?
Such a desperate plea. But he knows the answer already. Drops his head. It's all off.
And George admits something awful. I think I knowed from the very first. I think I knowed we'd never do her. That maybe deep down he always knew the dream was impossible, especially with Lenny.
His vision of his own future now? It's bleak. Back to the cycle he hated. I'll work my month and I'll take my $50 and I'll stay all night in some lousy cat house. Or I'll sit in some pool room and then I'll come back and work another month and I'll have $50 more.
Just empty labor, meaningless pleasure, no connection, no hope. The dream was the only escape from that, and it's gone. Candy then voices that regret about his dog. I ought to have shot that dog myself, George. I ought to have let no stranger shoot my dog. Connects his past inaction to Lenny's fate and foreshadows George's terrible choice. He regrets letting someone else do the hard, merciful thing.
George thinks fast. Tells Candy to pretend he just found her. Buys himself time. Time to get to Lenny first.
And Candy, left alone with the body, just unloads his grief and rage onto her, calls her a goddamn tramp, a lousy tart, blames her for ruining everything, destroying the dream. I could have hoed in the garden, he cries.
It's misplaced anger, isn't it? Tragic. He can't blame fate or Lenny, really, so he blames her, the victim, for shattering his hope.
The other men arrive. Slim, always the perceptive one, sees the broken neck. I guess Lenny done it all right. Connects it to weed. He understands.
The hunt is on. Carlson yells his Luger's gone. Ah, there's the gun.
Curly shows up, shotgun in hand, still mad about his own hand, now fueled by this. Pure vengeance.
Takes charge. Orders him to find Lenny. Tells Carlson specifically, shoot him in the guts. Make him suffer. Don't give him no chance. Fucking brutal.
George has to go along with the hunt, but he makes one last plea. But listen, Curly, the poor bastard's nuts. Don't shoot him. He didn't know what he was doing. Appeals to some shred of humanity.
But Curly was cold now. No mercy. George knows what's coming. Knows what he has to do to spare Lenny that brutal end.
The consequences are absolute. Dream dead, Lenny hunted, and George facing this impossible choice, a final act of love, mercy, despair, all of it.
And it all plays out back at the river, back where we started.
Lenny made it. He's in the brush, like George told him.
But he's terrified. Talking to himself, repeating George's words, scared George will be mad, won't let him tend the rabbits, thinks about going away.
And then the hallucinations start, and Clara appears first, scolding him in his own voice, using George's complaints, saying he's a burden he'll never change. So enough a bitchin' well, you ain't never gonna do it.
It shows how deep George's words, his frustrations, have sunk in. Even if Lenny can't fully process it, he feels that judgment, that sense of failure.
Then the rabbit, a gigantic rabbit, also speaking in Lenny's voice, even crueler, taunting him. You're not fit to tend rabbits. George is sick of you. George will beat hell out of you and then go away and leave you.
Gets his deepest fear, abandonment. He cries out, covers his ears, denies it. He ain't. I tell you, he ain't. Calling for George, his only safety. Oh, George.
And then George is there, steps out of the brush, quietly. The hallucinations stop. Reality replaces the fear, but the reality is worse.
Lenny expects yelling. Asks why George isn't giving him hell. Quotes George's old complaints back at him.
George notes sadly, Lenny remembers every word I say. Poignant, isn't it? He forgets so much. But George's words, the ones defining their bond in the dream, they stick.
George starts the familiar routine almost robotically, knowing the men are getting closer. If I was alone, I could live so easy. Lenny prompts him, wanting the comfort of the known script.
But then George looks across the water, back at that first peaceful spot, and he starts describing the dream. We gonna get a little place.
And while he's talking, he takes out Carlson's Luger, snaps off the safety, puts it on the ground behind Lenny. Quietly, the inevitable is here.
He looks at the back of Lenny's head, at the place where the spine and skull were joined. He knows exactly what he has to do and where.
You hear the voices coming up the river. Closer. Time is running out.
George raises the gun, his hand shakes, he hesitates, lowers it, but he pushes on with the dream description. We'll have a cow, a pig, and chickens, a little piece of alfalfa.
Lenny bursts with excitement, interrupting. For the rabbits! Focused only on his part. George confirms it. For the rabbits. Gives him that piece. Lenny giggles. Happy. Repeats the mantra. And live on the fat of the land.
He wants it now. Let's do it now. Let's get that place now. Wants the dream to be real, right this second.
In George's last words to him, there's an act of grace, really. No, Lenny, I ain't mad. I never been mad, and I ain't now. That's the thing I want you to know.
He wants Lenny's last moments to be without fear of his anger, Just the dream and the knowledge of George's care. He raises the gun again, steadies his hand, brings the muzzle close, pulls the trigger, the shot rings out, Lenny falls.
George shivers, throws the gun away, done.
The hunting party arrives, Slim calls out, Curly sees Lenny. Got him, by God. Vengeance satisfied. Notes the shot location softly, right in the back of the head. Maybe a flicker of understanding about how it happened.
Slim gets it instantly, the weight of it. Comforts George. You had at it, George. That's where you at it. Leads him away. An act of compassion.
And Carlson, completely clueless, watches Slim lead George away and asks, now what the hell you suppose is eating them two guys?
That final line is just devastating. Shows the total gap in understanding. Carlson sees an event, a killing. Slim and George understand the profound human tragedy, the love, the necessity, the sacrifice, and the novel just ends. Bam.
Stark. Unforgettable. Leaves you reeling.
Wow. Yeah. That was definitely a deep dive. Pulled out so much from those excerpts. We saw the beauty and the brutality, the fragile dream against the harsh reality, the complex bond, the loneliness, the forces crushing down on them, leading to that inevitable, awful end.
Yeah, so sources just lay bare these fundamental things, don't they? Loneliness, the need for connection, vulnerability, strength misused, the way systems like racism and sexism grind people down, and the painful truth that sometimes dreams just die. Steinbeck's language just hammers it home.
And that ending just sits with you. Those different reactions in the final moments. George carrying that impossible burden, acting out of this terrible mercy. Slim understanding immediately, offering quiet support.
And then Carlson, utterly oblivious, only sees the mechanics, not the meaning. What the hell you suppose is eating them two guys?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? That contrast. Why can Slim see the human cost, the love and pain behind George's action, while Carlson just sees, well, nothing important? What does that say about empathy, about how we understand or fail to understand the deepest struggles and choices others face?
It's a powerful question to leave us with. The struggle to see beyond the surface, to grasp the weight of another person's reality. Some get it, some just don't. And the novel doesn't give easy answers, just shows you the divide.
Yeah, a lot to chew on there. Definitely leaves you thinking.
It certainly does.